microphone over to Jody to give us a wonderful conversation about people first. Jody.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. Hello, business owners. Good to see you today. I saw some of you yesterday when we tuned in for the Monday session. Good to be with you all today. So as Jaime mentioned, I'm Jody Stankey. I live in Minnesota, and I've been instructing the Emerging Leader Program in Minnesota for Interrise for the last few years. So glad to be with you today. In outside of the instruction for the Emerging Leader Program, just so you know what my background is, because we are going to open this up to questions and answers. I own a talent alignment firm. So we assist organizations in increasing their effectiveness through their people. So you can think about that old common phrase that we hear: right people in the right seats, doing the right things at the right time. We're all about people aligning talent within your organization so you're like in that goose feed. Everybody's on board, going in the same direction as your vision. And then with individuals, aligning individual talents. So again, are people in the right seats to support their strengths and their passions? So career navigation, leadership development, recruiting, all of those topics are under the umbrella of things that we do here at Talent. So that's where I'm speaking from today. And in listening to the conversation with you yesterday, and in thinking about the questions that are most common from business owners that we're getting right now, they center around two things regarding people. One is, how do I know if my people are working? How do I manage and lead a remote workforce? And the second one has to do with expectations. How do I still have expectations and hold people accountable? So those are the two topics I'm going to talk about first, and then we'll open it up to Q&A, and you might have some of your own questions that are outside of those topics, so we can address those. With the first thing that I want to say, when I think about our growth plans that you probably all participated in and maybe are in the middle of one and now are re-looking at, well, what does that mean because of everything that's been happening in 2020 with our business? It's really a great time for small businesses in particular to look at, do I have the right people in place on my team for what the future holds or the vision holds, even if it's a short-term or a long-term picture. It's a great opportunity. I mean, whenever there's a kind of a negative or a downfall in our society and in looking at our workforce, there's always opportunity. We know that as entrepreneurs, as far as the service or the product that we're delivering to fill kind of a need. Same thing with our people. Sometimes as small businesses, it's hard to recruit the best talent because we maybe don't have the best benefits, or we don't have the flexibility or different offerings that larger companies have. But because of, I mean, you know, I hate to say it, but because of the furloughing, the downsizing, the uncertainty, even sometimes how leadership and management in the mid and large sized organizations have handled the pandemic that we're in, the communication with employees. Some people are naturally self-selecting out of big companies right now and looking for a more community-oriented or collaborative kind of environment. So it's a prime time for small businesses to be recruiting top talent that maybe wasn't available even 6 months ago to us. So it's really a great time for you to be looking at who's on my bus. What seats and functions do I really need in my business, whether you're service or product? What functions do I need to make that vision happen? And then, do I have the right people in those functions? If I don't, what's my plan to turn that out Or what's my plan to train and give more tools to those people so they can be fully functioning in that role or that seat? You don't want to miss out on that opportunity right now. And I think what I've been seeing in the market is not everyone's thinking like that in leadership. It's more like, how do I keep, sometimes what I've been hearing is, it's almost like, how do I keep pushing this round peg into this square hole? How do I get this person to function more effectively in a way that I need them to function? And the reality is sometimes they might just not be right. They might have been right at one time, or you might have known you were settling right from the get-go. And so to continue to spend time there to push it and try to make it work, don't do it. It's just a waste of time right now. So take advantage of the opportunity. That's the first thing that I want to say. Look at upgrading your talent wherever and whenever you can. So outside of that, then let's look at, as a leader, what do you need to be doing right now with this remote workforce? Not all of us probably have remote workforces, but in one way or another, at one time or another, most of us probably have. So let's talk about that first. With the remote workforce, I would say that more than anything, it's the leader that needs to shift the mindset. So it's not always the action or the activity, but it's more shifting your mindset as to how it is you're going to lead and interact when you're not going to be seeing people all the time, or stopping in their offices, or seeing what time they get into work, or whatever it might be. So with that, there are 3 mindsets that leaders need to shift in order to get the most out of their remote workforce, and also to keep their culture active and alive. And so the first one is to focus on results versus activity. So what do I mean by that? A common question is, how do I know that my people are working? How do I know that they're not in the back doing their laundry, washing their dishes, walking their dog? And the reality is we don't know. But what we do know is what we expect a result to be. And so however they get to that result might be fine as long as they're getting to the result. So to stress about, what are they doing every second of the day is just hard on you, and then creates bad behavior for them. So that's the first mindset shift, is clarity around, and sometimes it takes a little bit for us as leaders to say, well, what do we want those results to be? Were we clear about them before? It calls us, demands us to be clear about what we expect right now, so we can communicate that effectively, and then we manage to the result. Statistics have shown that people actually can be more productive at home versus in the office, because they don't have all the chit chat going on with employees and coworkers and peers. They're not going out for lunch usually and then coming back, or going out for a walk, or going for a break. They are more productive because often they're more focused. And so it might be that it doesn't take them as much time to get to the results, and they might have a little bit more flexibility in their day. And I'm just going to say that that's okay if you're getting the result that you want. And it might lead to your advantage because you're creating a lifestyle flexibility that could support retention of your people when you focus on the results instead of the activity. Okay, so that's number 1, results, not activity, as far as mind shift for a leader. The second mind shift that needs to happen is thinking about collaboration versus isolation. It's easy to think like out of sight, out of mind. So you're busy, you're trying to figure things out. Your day sometimes right now is fuller than it was before. And so it's easy to just hunker down, isolate. Your people are isolated, you're isolated because you're task focused and you're trying to get things done. So just keep in mind that people feel more sticky to your culture, your organization, when you think about retention. And sometimes they can get more done when they know that what they're doing is affecting the whole team. So to keep that collaboration and foster collaboration, it doesn't mean that you as a leader need to be engaged in every single conversation, but you can set the tone for your people to be collaborating and communicating, working with each other. And so maybe it's setting up a communication time. Maybe it's just mentioning it when you're in your team meetings like this. Maybe in your one-on-one conversations, it's encouraging reach outs to happen. Anything like that, just to remind people that you still want them to be interacting and working with each other, that they're not all of a sudden solo just because they're not in the office together. Second mind shift. First is results, not activity. Second, collaboration, not isolation. And the third is interaction, not transaction. Interaction, not transaction. So what do I mean by that? Again, when we're busy and we're trying to get our own stuff done, you might even notice this on the phone. It's easy to just, when it is that we start talking with someone or when we have the opportunity to talk with someone, it's easy to go right to the transaction. What did you get done? When are you going to get it done? Did you meet this deadline? Did you call that person back? Did you do this? You know, it's easy to go right there and forget that we're still working with people. It's still about the relationship. We still want to create kind of the sticky. And so it might take a little extra intentional attention for us as leaders to remember, oh yeah, I might want to check in with them first. What's going on with them before I get right to what I really want to know, which is, did you get it done or not? Or can you answer this question so we can all keep moving, or, you know, whatever it might be. That interaction is the opportunity for you to see, how are folks doing? Are they running into a stumbling block? Do they need something? Are they, or is their family member suffering in some way? So sometimes it seems like, as a leader, it seems like that can take a lot of time to do a little check-in or to remember that you're talking with a person. But in reality, it's pretty quick. And then it keeps people, again, in relationship with you, which then what? They're still on the team. They want to contribute. They want to give you information versus you trying to pull it from them. They'll be more engaged to stay proactive, stay interactive, stay collaborative. If we're remembering that it's not just about the transaction. So those are the 3 mind shifts that I think are important for a leader to make as we're working with our remote workforce to keep your culture alive and to keep your sticky happening. So I think we're hitting upon our 15 minutes. And I would like to just mention that accountability and expectations are critical, of course. And I was thinking that it could assist you in looking at, I'm just going to switch my screen so you can see a worksheet that we're actually going to be, that's going to be available both after and during this presentation, but also after the presentation, so you don't have to, you know, capture everything right in the moment. But what I wanted to say about expectation setting is right now, as a leader, it's expectation setting with people that are reporting to you, like your employees, but it also might be expectation setting with service providers, vendors. It also might be expectation setting with bankers or or peers or collaborative organizations that you're working with. And so the worksheet that I'm attaching is having to do with expectation setting. And Jaime, I just want to check in with you. Is it okay that we talk about this a little bit, or do you want to break and do question and answer?
Um, let's maybe do a couple more minutes, but we should be wrapping up within the next 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. So with the expectation setting model, which you can see on the screen here, it's kind of a backwards way as to how we usually set expectations. Typically, how people set expectations is they have a very small, they start at the top of the pyramid, and typically what happens is you have a very short conversation about what it is you expect. And then you're kind of noticing in that second tier that, something's not getting done on time. I'm getting frustrated. You may or may not say something in the moment. And then when it doesn't happen, you have a very big conversation. It often is longer and it's bigger, more expressive, usually in the form of upset and loud voice or a loud tone. And sometimes because of that big behavior as a leader, the message is lost that whoever it is that you had the expectation of didn't do something. Instead, they see your big behavior and it becomes about you. You know, like, you're a jerk, you have unreasonable expectations, you're, you know, like, I don't know what your problem is. You know, the listening stops because the nonverbal is so large. So when this is a little worksheet for you to reference and remember that we actually want to shift the idea of expectation setting. So instead of having a short little conversation at the top, we want to start at the bottom of the pyramid and work up. So we want to have the biggest conversation with someone at the bottom to set the expectation in the first place. So you want to establish what your expectation is and really talk about it. Explore options, talk about the goal, talk about maybe concerns that could come up that would stop someone from meeting the expectation. Listen to see what the other person might have to say about the expectation, and then come to an agreement. Here's the expectation. You can remember the SMART goals from our program. Here's the expectation. This is the deadline. This is what I want the outcome to be. Then you might have a check-in. That variation part in the triangle there is for you to do a check-in. Are you on track or are you off track? That's the opportunity to reset an expectation if unexpected things happen and you need to reset the expectation. And then you're coming to agreement again. It's also the opportunity where you get to build in a consequence if it doesn't happen. So for example, if I had a PowerPoint that I wanted to have happen, created in order for me to do a presentation. And I set it up with my assistant who was going to do it. And we set it up that I would need it by Wednesday at noon in order for me to prep. And if it wasn't going to be done by Wednesday at noon, I needed to know ahead of time so we could take different actions. So on Tuesday morning, I checked in to see if it was going to be done or not done, if we're on track, not on track. And I realized and heard that, it hadn't been working. It wasn't started yet, but they were going to do it, but they hadn't started it yet. So then I built in a consequence that would look like, if it is that you have not started and you don't think you're going to be done by Wednesday at noon, by Tuesday at the end of the day, then I'm going to ask you to stay late on Tuesday so you can get that done. That's the consequence. I'm not big about it. I'm reaffirming our commitment. It's a neutral kind of manner, both in the tone of my voice and the expression that I'm using. And then if there's not compliance to the expectation being met, you actually had an agreement with someone. And so you can hold that person to the consequence. You can keep the accountability right there and find out, well, what was the problem? We often treat people like we have an agreement because we had an expectation, but we can see that often the expectation wasn't communicated clearly, nor did the other person agree to actually do and meet the expectation. But we treat them like we did. So as a leader, no matter if it's someone reporting to you, a peer-to-peer, or someone you're reporting to, you can use this model to manage accountabilities and expectations, no matter who it is. It works effectively. So just a little taster of that. You might have more questions about it, which I'm happy to answer now or later.
Jody, I wanted to let you know that questions are starting to come in. So if we can wrap it up a little bit so that we can finish the recording and jump into the question session.
Yeah, let's do that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes.
Oscar, would you mind stopping the recording? Excellent. Thank you.